station MITV on DSTV channel 255, 7 p.m. daily, and also our YouTube and Facebook pages under one name, Clearview News Desk every day. We call it The People's News, as we are available to come over and cover your events upon notice. Or do you have news you want us to broadcast? Send it in. We verify and go to town with it. All for you. Go ahead, engage us to thrash out those naughty issues on the news. And what we need from you is to share and subscribe. More important, convince your loved ones, friends, relatives, co-worshippers, and more to subscribe so as to be getting notifications as we break the news. Go a step further, like the news, and drop your thoughts on the comment section. Clearview News. We clear the view one time and for all time.
Hello and welcome to Clearview News Desk. We are reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. First, the headlines. A human rights lawyer and activist, Deji Adeyanju, has attributed Nigeria's growing security challenges to deployment of policemen to politicians instead of engaging them in fighting banditry, terrorism, and other social vices. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has publicly expressed his support for the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Umar Damagum, amidst recent internal party conflicts. We also told you that the Rivers State Police Command has rescued a teenager who was kidnapped in Enugu and transported to Port Harcourt in a Ghana must-go bag. I am Gloria Atta with these and more. Welcome. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has publicly expressed his support for the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party (PDP, Umar Damagum, amidst recent internal party conflicts. This statement comes in response to remarks attributed to Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, who had indicated that the party leadership had agreed to replace Damagum and restore the PDP structure in Rivers State to Governor Simfu Bara. Governor Makinde criticized Bala Mohammed for focusing on the PDP's internal leadership rather than channeling his energy into supporting the party's candidate in the upcoming Edo State governorship election. He emphasized that PDP members, including himself, fully back Damagum's leadership and expect party members to rally around the party's broader interests, particularly in the crucial Edo election.
And I'm glad also that our acting national chairman and members of his national working committee are here. I was reading yesterday that there was another meeting in Bauchi by some NWC members. Let me say clearly, I've been discussing with my brother on our way here. We are 100% support of Mark Damagum-led NWC. Whatever decision you take, we will support you to reposition our party. And let me also say this, I don't think this is the right time. Even if we have issues within ourselves, we have an important election on Saturday. So we should all just rally around and deliver our candidates.
Still talking politics, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has accused the All Progressives Congress (APC) of allegedly fueling the crisis in the People's Democratic Party. Mohammed alleged that the ruling party had deliberately planted moles within the PDP in Rivers State. He stated that the APC picked the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, to serve in its administration because they do not have people who can perform better than PDP members. The governor stated this when the PDP Board of Trustees paid him a visit. He expressed concern over the power struggle between Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State and his predecessor, Wike. According to him, members have to close ranks, believing that there is no issue that is insurmountable. Mohammed said APC wants the PDP to be in disarray, and according to him, they will always want to have moles within them so as to always have the knowledge of what is happening within the PDP. However, Mohammed assured that efforts are underway to take decisive action to unify the party, stating that the party cannot compromise the peace and unity of its members. Away from politics, a human rights lawyer and activist, Deji Adeyonju, says one of the reasons for persistent security challenges in the country is the inadequate number of policemen released to fight banditry, terrorism, and other social vices, while politicians and so-called VIPs are seen given heavy security at the detriment of citizens. Clearview News' Imefono Kon has the details.
Lamenting over the poor security situation of the country, a human rights lawyer and activist, Deji Adeyonju, said any nation that allows its security personnel to be attached to politicians instead of policing can never progress.
Any nation where the police, the SSS, the army are subcontracted to politicians instead of policing the nation can never work. Forget about this cosmetic surgery and all these things, and believe me, only 13,000 police officers are engaged in fighting banditry and terrorist activities. 13,000. But go to the first CID, go and check. You can even use FOI to check this. 130,000 are following big men up and down. 130,000 are following big men up and down. In the Senate alone, and that's Senate and House of Reps alone, there are 3,600 police people attached to these jobless senators and House of Rep people. Why will insecurity not persist in the country?
Speaking of governance, Deji said Nigerians have the right to demand for their rights and a reformation.
Nigeria needs active citizens who will just wake up early in the morning on a faithful Wednesday or Thursday or Friday and occupy the entire nation and demand for reform and demand that these armed robbers, these buccaneers who are in the National Assembly, that they must stop stealing. A situation where you have the national budget, and 80% of the national budget is stolen, and you expect me, you tell me that things can work.
Deji also noted that social media remains the only conscience of the citizens, hence the need for all hands to be on deck to say no to regulation of social media.
If not for social media, where will we have been able to see the Akpabios of this world that will tell citizens and insult them that while you are protesting, I will be eaten? You know, if not for social media, how will we have seen Abelo resisting arrest by EFCC? If not for social media, how will we have been able to see the First Lady fooling around planting something in her backyard, and that is the only way to develop an economy? If not for social media, how will we have been able to know the abracadabra of Dangote and the NNPC and all their wuru-wuru? Social media has become a tool of mobilization. The reason why the government is so scared and why they did everything humanly possible to stop protests and agitation is because they know. And the reason why they target social media is because they know the power that social media wields, and they intend to stop the power.
According to Adeyonju, all nations of the world where the government has failed its citizens, the only way out is for people to turn to God. Imefono Kon, reporting for Clearview News.
Now, the need for Nigeria to leverage on advanced technologies for intelligence gathering and surveillance and communication to tackle the myriad of security challenges facing the country has again been brought to the front burner. Speaking at a one-day conference on Wednesday in Abuja, Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal and other critical stakeholders in Nigeria's security architecture say the time is now for Nigeria to wield power back from the hands of enemies of the country that have for long threatened her peace and territorial integrity. The report.
For more than a decade now, the security situation in Nigeria has remained an issue of great concern considering the various security challenges such as terrorism, kidnapping, communal clashes, organized crimes, banditry, and a host of others. These have led to deaths of innocent citizens, wanton destruction of public and private property, and displacement of millions of residents from their ancestral land. The rise of non-state actors such as Boko Haram in the northeast and armed bandits in the northwest have further worsened the security landscape, posing great challenge to state authority and undermining efforts to restore peace. At a one-day conference organized by Connect the Dots, a non-governmental organization in Abuja, stakeholders have linked the lingering security challenges facing the country to a lack of proper and effective investment in advanced technologies to support peace-building efforts. According to Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal, effective counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism efforts require robust intelligence capabilities and the use of advanced technology for surveillance and communication to sustain the pressure in the fight against non-state actors.
As responsible government, we're putting all the necessary structures in place to make sure we tackle the situation of insecurity. And honestly, it's yielding a lot of positive results, as we can see. Even within the last 3 days, one of the major kingpin was killed. Even yesterday, some of those guys were killed. So if we sustain the pressure, I think it's just a matter of time, things will be over. Technology is simple and very straightforward. Using the modern system to be able to identify locations, voice and everything, that is technology. And that is what we're using right now. And I believe other states also are following the same process, because that is the only way we can be decisive on these people, and we'll continue to do that.
Earlier, the convener of the conference, Halima Abdul Rauf, said the event with the theme Uniting Against Insecurity became imperative given the multifaceted and dynamic security challenges affecting the North. Other stakeholders stressed the need for relevant partnerships and collaboration, especially among the youths, to combating the scourge.
Of course, almost all the regions of Nigeria are faced with one challenges of insecurity or the other, but the situation is more dire in the north, and we're trying to change the narrative. We're trying to make sure we put in place a system that will make sure we go door to door awareness. So these people are our vanguards. Most of the people that attended will be our vanguards on ground to go and enlighten the communities and make sure that we take this forward and change the narrative, not just talking all the time. Talk is cheap, but actioning our talks is very key, and we'll take it back through door-to-door sensitization and also implementing development projects.
Over 60% of the population of this country is below the age of 25, and the world over, youth are the building block for nation building and national development, so they have a critical role to play. Yes, I agree, Nigeria is going through very difficult times, but you know, tough times don't last, but tough people last. Therefore, the message to the youth is for them to continue to be resilient, to be hardworking and dedicated, and eschew all things that are not in tandem with the values of the Nigerian society. Again, it is not just the youth, but the society as a whole. We should institutionalize certain things, particularly transformational leadership, where we can bridge the gap in terms of quality leadership.
There's a need for community engagement to build trust and gather information. Why community have to be involved is the fact that the only way when they talk about intelligence, military intelligence, they are not independent from the security, but rather it is information gathered by the people in the community that they pass to the security service. and that now benefit the service in fulfilling the ecstasy of some of these criminals.
The use of surveillance drones, satellite imagery, and artificial intelligence can revolutionize modern security and operations globally and in northern Nigeria. By integrating these technologies, we can conduct real monitoring of remote and vulnerable areas. Drones, for example, can provide crucial intelligence on terrorist movements and bandits' hideouts in hot zones like Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto, while AI-driven systems can analyze massive amounts of data to identify potential threats before they materialize.
Highlight of the event was a panel discussion, fireside chats, and art exhibition, among others.
Still on security, the Rivers State Police Command has rescued a teenager who was kidnapped in Enugu and transported to Port Harcourt in a Ghana Moscow bag. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Mr. Olatunji Disu, announced this during a news conference in Port Harcourt. Disu said that the teenager, aged 16, was repeatedly raped by her kidnappers after being taken to Port Harcourt. He said that the crime was uncovered when officers in Abuloma police station received credible intelligence regarding suspicious movement of one of the suspects. Upon receiving the information, operatives were swiftly dispatched to the area and arrested one male suspect. Meanwhile, preliminary investigations revealed that the suspect lured the teenager from her residence in Garki, Enugu, placed her in a Ghana Moscow bag and transported her from Enugu to Port Harcourt. As part of efforts geared towards providing succor to the Borno State flood victims, Save the Children International Nigeria says it has set up a multi-purpose cash assistance program, health and nutrition outreach services, among other humanitarian aid for the affected households in the state. The country director, Save the Children International Nigeria, Duncan Harvey, made the disclosure at a press conference in Abuja on Wednesday. Let's now join Clearview's correspondent for details.
The devastating floods, which have ravaged the Maiduguri and Jere local government areas of Borno State in the past week, has been described as one of the worst in 30 years. According to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, over 400,000 people have been displaced and at least 37 people have died, while 58 others sustained different degrees of injury. The floods hit Borno State last week after the Alau Dam impounding a regional river burst its banks, burying half the state capital, Maiduguri, and causing severe damage to buildings and other infrastructures. The Alau Dam was built in 1986 to help farmers in Maiduguri with irrigation. A similar development in 1994 had caused the dam to break, inundating Maiduguri and its surrounding areas, while in 2012, the same dam broke and flooded nearby communities. In support of the federal government's efforts to address the situation, Save the Children International says it is setting up a health and nutrition outreach service to help affected households and victims through the challenging times.
In one of the camps, we are extending our therapeutic feeding programs for underweight children. So we have an active screening program where we're trying to identify children who are malnourished, who are underweight, and we're working together with the Ministry of Health to identify those children, to put them onto therapeutic feeding programs in order to make sure that they can recover as soon as possible. So we're very concerned about scaling up that program. This is not new work to Save the Children in Maiduguri, and like I say, we've been working for the last 10 years across MMC and Jere LGAs with those kinds of interventions, but we're now scaling those up as a particular priority. In terms of in the camps themselves, Save the Children, as I mentioned in the video, we had the team there on the Thursday night just before I had arrived had been staying up until 9 o'clock in the evening, working with local partners to distribute food rations to 3,000 people. We scaled that up successfully to 5,000 over the last few days. So we are working together with local suppliers, local vendors to provide prepackaged meals within the camps, so that we, again, recognizing that many people were forced to flee their homes. They weren't able to bring cooking utensils, they can't prepare their own food, so there's a real need in many of these camps for pre-prepared food to be delivered and distributed. So that's another key area of intervention for us. Water, as I mentioned, is a key priority, and we have been working with local providers to ensure thousands of litres of fresh water are being delivered to the sites, stored, chlorinated, cleaned, so that we can provide safe drinking water to children and their families in the camp. So food, water, health and nutrition is particularly of concern. As I said earlier, I think one of our major concerns for Save the Children is the protection of children in these in the camps, and the protection of children across Borno State. We've seen relatively large numbers of children being separated from their families, and we are working again with all the authorities on the ground, with NEMA, with SEMA, in order to make sure that children are reunified with their families as quickly as possible.
SCI Country Director Duncan Harvey also called on the federal government to encourage and support humanitarian actors by creating enabling systems that would help speed up emergency response efforts.
As Save the Children, we're trying not to respond independently. We want to work within the existing mechanisms. We recognise the very strong need for coordination. We don't want all agencies to be focusing on one or two camps. There are 26 camps, so we really need to make sure that children and their families are being supported and protected in all of those camps. That's a major challenge to coordinate those efforts.
West Africa has experienced some of its worst flooding in decades. According to the United Nations, over 2.3 million people were affected in 2023, 3 times the 2022 figure. Borno State has over the last decade experienced humanitarian crisis due to activities of Boko Haram insurgency, where over 2.6 million people have been displaced, with many living in camps that are vulnerable to flooding. Gloria Atta, reporting for Clearview News.
If you are just joining us, you're watching the news on Clearview News Desk. We will be back after this break. Stay with us.
We break the news.
This is Christ Embassy.
Recollect, we were the first to break this. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf of Kano State has approved the appointment of 3 second-class emirs. And this?
Erasmus is the most successful program of the European Union to support education and youth.
And this?
Fubara is not an ungrateful person.
And more.
Tension is currently mounting in River State. The planned arraignment of Yaya Bello.
Across our platforms. Subscribe now and you will be receiving our notifications and never left out as the news breaks on Clearview.
Welcome back. The Office of the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency have accused Iran of efforts to sow discord and shape the outcome of the U.S. elections. It said Iranian malicious cyber actors in late June and early July 2024 sent unsolicited emails to individuals then associated with President Biden's campaign that contained an excerpt taken from stolen non-public material from former President Trump's campaign as text in the emails, adding that there is currently no information indicating those recipients replied. Furthermore, it said Iranian malicious cyber actors have continued their efforts since June to send stolen non-public material associated with former President Trump's campaign to U.S. media organizations. According to the DNI, this malicious cyber activity is the latest example of Iran's multi-pronged approach, as noted in the joint August statement, to stoke discord and undermine confidence in U.S. electoral process. The DNI said, as the lead for threat response. The FBI has been tracking this activity and has been in contact with the victims and will continue to investigate and gather information in order to pursue and disrupt the threat actors responsible. The Court of Appeal in Abuja this Thursday granted the request of the federal government and former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, to settle out of court an appeal challenging his removal from office. The decision of the court followed information that the two parties in the suit had intensified efforts to reach an amicable settlement of all issues in the dispute. Recall that former President Muhammadu Buhari had in 2019 removed Onnoghen as the Chief Justice of Nigeria during the pendency of a charge against him at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. However, at this Thursday's proceedings in the appeal, Counsel to CJN, Dr. Ogu Onoja-san, informed a three-member panel of the appeal court that the two parties were involved in discussions on a peaceful resolution of the dispute. Onoja informed the court that the parties had an engagement up until Wednesday and expressed optimism that the discussion would bear fruitful results. Onoja subsequently appealed to the appellate court for a 1-month adjournment for final settlement of the matter. Meanwhile, counsel to the federal government, Tijani Ghazali, confirmed the submission of Onoja and requested that the matter be shifted for a possible amicable settlement. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap.
Deployment of policemen to politicians instead of fighting banditry and other social vices responsible for persistent insecurity in Nigeria. So says activist and human rights lawyer Deji Adeyanju. Amidst internal crisis, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State dissociates self from co-PDP governors, expresses support for acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Umar Damagum. Rivers State Police Command rescues teenager kidnapped in Enugu and transported to Port Harcourt in a Ghana-Moscow bag.
You can follow up on latest events and happenings around you via our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Clearview News Desk, or via our handle on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Clearview Online. Many thanks for joining us. I am Gloria Atta. Bye for now.